watching the time just ticking. Clock runs around, days in and out, can't really call it living. Somewhere I let light go dark, but here's where my new story starts. Take my life.
Hello, welcome to Heart of the Tribe. My name is Shel Wagner, and I am so glad that you are here with us today. Boy, have we got a show for you. I have two guests to the show today to share with you the amazing revelation from our Heavenly Father on living a healthy life in such a world as this. Dr. Alfonso Monzo has written a book called The Aleph Tav Body System. I've got it right here. And Nitza Moshe of Remnant Remedy has formulated oils that go along with the system. Now, this is really exciting. They're going to have their own show that is going to be called the Aleph Tav Remedy, and that'll be airing here also on Lamb Network TV. By the way, we are now broadcasting 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. So that's a big achievement, and it just keeps growing every day. Now, Nitza Moshe has blended all the essential oils that match the frequencies of the Aleph Tav Body program. Now, that explanation is my very limited understanding of the program contained in Dr. Monzo's book. I truly believe that our gracious Heavenly Father is releasing a storehouse of wisdom to his children in this generation. And I don't think I have to explain how needed that is today. Right? Everything's kind of in disorder, but Yah is restoring order to his kids in a multitude of ways. And I do believe that this is one of the ways. So I am so excited to hear what they're going to share with us today. I'm going to bring them in and show you their website so you'll know where to get more information. So Nitza, welcome so much. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Dr. Monzo, welcome to the program.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So glad you're both here today. I'm going to do a quick share to just let you guys know. Now, this is Dr. Monzo's site so that you'll know where to go and find out more about him after he shares today. I know you're going to want to check it out. And let me see if I can also share Nitza's website. There it is, Remnant Remedy. So you can see there we've got remnantremedy.com, and that was it. Let me stop sharing that. Okay. All right. Well, I know you've got a big presentation for us today, Dr. Monzo. Caught him off guard there. So I am going to really just let you run with it. I do just wanted people to know just a few things. I had seen this on your site. So Dr. Monzo is a naturopathic doctor and views the body as a whole in which all parts are interrelated and should be considered for true health and wellness to be achieved. He specialized in the field of biophysics, which he studied and practiced for the last 13 years. He has over 10,000 hours of experience with biomeridian. In addition, Alfonso completed a 3-year internship with the King Institute, where he specialized in the King Institute method and the study of bioelectromagnetic systems of the body. He provides treatments and assessments, nutritional counseling, life wave testing and patching, Quest 4 testing along advanced frequency imprints, advanced allergy sensitivity eliminations, HALO, photonic system, and voice bio sound therapy. In 2019, he started Health Restoration Technologies, LLC. This company focuses on health research, product development, and Quest 4 testing services. Dr. Monzo has been very busy. And we appreciate you bringing your knowledge to our audience today and sharing with us. So I'm going to kind of switch over. Are you ready to start your presentation?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to add it to stream. There we go. And we're just going to let Dr. Monzo go ahead and roll with it.
Well, I'll give a couple updates because that thing is actually a little old now. We need to update our website, but
Yes.
I think I've been in bioenergetics now for over 22 years. I did electrical engineering and electronic technology in the 90s. I only did a 2-year program and decided not to continue that and go any further. But man, I was talking about EMFs and how they affect your body in like around 95. So, and how they have weather control devices because I was studying Tesla, and Tesla had all these things. So, and we don't actually have health restoration technology anymore. We are now our health restoration ministries. We started a private ministerial association to basically keep the government out because it's all private among members. So the government only gets involved when it's public health, but we're not in public health, we're private now. So it's kind of ran very similar to a church, except we're not a 501. So just so people know, we changed that because we just got tired of them wanting to control what we do. So without further ado, let's get to the topic. So a lot of people might have a book. You might not have a book. So in a nutshell, let me just tell you Aleph Tabari. And then we're going to get into the Bible and energy. I'm sure we can't cover everything we want to today because there is so much. That's why we have a book. But I was studying energy systems of the body, and I came across a specific one where there's specific points on the body that it's different than acupuncture or any of these other modalities out there. And there wasn't that many points on the body. Like in acupuncture, you have thousands of what they call acupuncture points. But in this system, there was only so many points. And they had numbers related to them. But the numbers didn't have any specific order. They seemed to be more identified, and they were random where the numbers were on the body. It's a very, very ancient system. And somewhere, I would say around 2010, after I got more into a Torah lifestyle, I was studying this and I realized, oh, these points on the body are Hebrew letters, literally Hebrew letters. And so I started researching from 2010 until just last year when I released the book, figuring out how to measure the points, figuring out their names, what they do, all the systems of the body they control, mapping that all out. And the main therapy, or you could say application for this system, is the hands. Because it turns out your left hand is negative and your right hand's positive. And when you place your two hands on two different Hebrew letters, that gets energy in the body to move from negative to positive. So it's polarity work. And I think this is probably the original hands. When you look at some of the documents that go all the way back, this was rediscovered in Japan, and if people don't know, Japan is a very high percentage of Japanese are lost tribes. They have identified almost 2,000 words in Japan that are pronounced the same as a Hebrew word and mean the same thing as the Hebrew word. So Japan is definitely one of the lost tribes over there. And then there was another group of people that were not, and they mixed. So they rediscovered the system. And even in their ancient writings, they say that this system was definitely known in the ancient world. And Moses knew about it. And it was passed on and brought to Japan by tribesmen. Now, I never said who these tribesmen were, but it was like, I wonder who that's. And then this information, I think, got lost for a very long time. It was probably removed because of our lack of obedience. And now in the end times, he is restoring this ancient system so we can understand. So that's what Aleph Tav body is. So your whole body is controlled by these points. And we will get into that a little bit later. But the big topic we wanted to talk to today is the Bible and energy and who is deceived, because it doesn't take long before you realize that anyone talking about this topic of energy is quickly looked down upon. It's all sorcery, it's all witchcraft, it's new age, all these type of things. So what's the truth about that? We're going to get into that today. Oh, I can use my control arrows. That's great. Look at that. So in Genesis, we see that Yah being spirit created matter, and it tells us that Yah spoke the world into existence, uh, which is very interesting because that is a form of energy if you think about it. Because what is speaking? It's sound. Some of it's thought, some of it's sound, depending on the Hebrew words. But both of those are a form of energy. If we measured sound waves today, you would be measuring a type of energy. The Bible says Yeshua fills everything and holds everything together, right? We know he's the Word, he's the light. Well, those are forms of energy. There actually are Greek words, and there are some Hebrew words that are the same meaning as energy. Now, it's a little bit harder to find them in Hebrew because you usually don't see the Hebrew word ever translated as energy, but some of the Greek words definitely are. And you can see on the screen, I try not to read everything that's on the screen because I think that's just boring, like you guys can't read. But energies, number 1756 in Strong's, is a Greek word. And it's often translated as active, operative, powerful. And it's used 31 times in the New Testament, probably most commonly as power. So a lot of times when you see this word power in the scripture, which I think in the entire Bible, it's like 300 and something, 350, maybe even more times the word power is actually used in the Bible. And sometimes it's speaking of Yah and sometimes it's speaking of something else, but um, it is definitely there. So here's another one. Oftentimes it's used, this energia, the Greek word is used for working. And that can be the working of Hasatan, and you can also find sometimes it's the working of the Spirit in us, or Yah working in us. Oh yeah, it even says here in the Old Testament and New Testament, there's the two different words that are used exclusively for the work of the divine Yah or for demonic powers. So very interesting. But let's get into some other things here, because we can talk on that all day. Why do some believers reject anything dealing with energy? So we're going to get into bad judgments here, or faulty judgments. We're going to get into counterfeits, and then we're going to get into, or something I'll probably just explain right now, which is the scale. In a scale system, you want things to be balanced, and everything in the body we want it to be balanced. Scripture too, it says avoid all extremes, try to find the balance, that homeostasis. And what happens for most of us is if we're involved in something, witchcraft or new age or whatever it is, and we come out of it, the first thing most people do is the pendulum swing, and you go into the opposite side of another extreme, which is it's all bad, it's all evil. That's almost never true, because Hasatan is not the creator. He didn't create anything. So most of the time, what we're doing is we're calling everything Yah created bad because we were doing it incorrectly. So I'm going to get more into that when we get into counterfeits. But look at some of these. The heathens do it. Pagans do it. Must be bad. It's Eastern. Must be bad. It's new or different. So it must be bad. I don't understand it. So it must be bad. I'm not sure about it. So I'm going to call it evil. Better be to be safe than sorry. Unless you're calling what the spirit's doing evil, and then you're going to be sorry. Fear and not understanding counterfeits. So many people start their discovery this way. They start out studying the counterfeit instead of the truth. And if a heathen does it or a pagan does it, then automatically it's bad. But this is actually backwards, because you're not proving what is true, you're proving what is false. And guess what? Pagans use and they have sex, they breathe air, they eat food, plants, and animals. They drink water. So the question is, are you going to condemn all those things too? Remember the paradigm swing. If you grew up as a prostitute and then you become a believer, you could do a pendulum swing and say all sex is bad because that's the only perspective I know sex as. But we all know that's not true. But Yah gives us very specific instructions about sex. So there's a proper place for it. And then the enemy uses it for evil. So just because some people were using it for evil doesn't mean it's all evil. And you can say the same thing about everything on this list. Eastern. I always laugh at this one. It's Eastern, so it must be bad. And it's like, did you know that Yeshua and everyone who wrote the Bible actually came from the East? It's like, for some reason, us in the West, we think we have it right, and the East has it wrong. But I think it's interesting. I think it was Brad Scott. He used to teach on this. When you actually get into the meaning of East and West in the Hebrew, East actually means to return to the ancient ways, and West is a word that means to depart and to move away from the ancient ways. So it's kind of ironic that we get it backwards in the West. So this isn't true just because it's in the East, it's bad. It's new and different. Well, unfortunately, this is a really big problem in what most people call science today. And I think most of science today is scientism, not really science, but they seem to drag their feet, and they usually seem to be about 50 to 100 years behind the actual science that has been done, just because they're resistant to change, and they don't want to change. I don't understand it, so it must be bad. Well, the Bible is quite clear that I'm not supposed to learn on my own understanding, but trust in Yah. So just because we don't understand it doesn't mean that makes it proper judgment. There's a lot of things we still don't understand that Yah tells us to do. And we can kind of just sit there, and sometimes even some of his instructions don't make a lot of sense, and maybe we kind of sweep it under the rug because, well, it doesn't really make sense to us, and well, maybe he told us to do it for some reason, but maybe I'm not going to do it until I know why. Well, he didn't say don't only keep my instructions if you understand why. He just said do what I said. It's how childish is that, really? If you think a little child, they love to try to stick their hand in that hot burner or anything hot, red, and you're telling them, no, it's hot. And they just look at you. And then they try to reach over. No. And eventually, if they do touch it, they start crying, and then they find out, oh, it burnt me. And you're like, well, that's why I told you not to touch it, So we kind of do that all the time. Here's another one. I'm not sure about it. I'm going to call it evil. Woe unto those who call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. And of course, the worst is the unpardonable sin against the Spirit. So we really want to be careful. We're not saying something is of Satan that Yah created. So now we get into the fair thing, which, hey, that's a cheat. They're giving you the the white and the yellow. The yellow is supposed to come up separate. But anyways, I guess you can read it all now. So have you ever seen a $3 bill? No. Why? Because you only counterfeit with that which is real. If you start counterfeiting something that doesn't exist, everyone's going to know it's a counterfeit. It's like, okay. You ever see a counterfeit penny? Probably not. Why? Well, it doesn't have any value to it, so why would you waste your time counterfeiting something that has no value? Does the counterfeit look similar? And is the counterfeit the same as the original? Well, truth and lie look similar, but it doesn't mean they're the same thing. And what does the anti-counterfeiter study? Well, they study the truth, right? And if you study the truth, you can always identify the counterfeit. So Satan is a counterfeiter. We don't need to run away from the truth because of the counterfeit. In fact, I think that's exactly why he makes so many counterfeits. One reason, if you make a counterfeit, you can mislead those into the wrong use of that, whatever it is, or a lie. The other reason is to keep people away from the truth out of fear because it looks similar. So, really, whenever you see a counterfeit, you should ask, what is he trying to hide from us? What is true and valuable that he doesn't want us to know? So, instead of running away because of fear, which fear is faith in reverse, you're putting more faith in Satan's ability to get you than in Yah's ability to keep you safe. And worse, you may be giving Satan credit for what Yah has made. And then that gets very close to, grieving the Ruach. So we have to be really careful on our judgments on these things. I'm deciding where we want to go. This is really interesting. We have some time, so I might kind of go through some of the witchcraft stuff really quick, but this is a analysis between witchcraft and the Bible. Witchcraft, the use of sorcery and magic, such as charms, spells, believed to have supernatural power over natural forces. All right, but yet in the Bible, we have Aaron and Moses, the staff. It turned into a snake, turned water into blood, summoned frogs, gnats, parted the sea, brought forth water from a rock, aided in military victory. Kind of interesting. So, was Moses and Aaron using witchcraft? You have Gideon's fleece, and you have divination. Divination is the practice of foreseeing future events or discovering hidden knowledge by interpreting omens or through the age of supernatural powers. Well, what was he doing with a fleece? So what I'm trying to do here is show people that most of the practices in witchcraft seem very similar to practices in the Bible. They're not the same, but it's like a counterfeit version. How about this one? Some of these slides kind of got messed up. I don't know. Might be we had to load these into this program, so I don't know if that moved things around or what. But I call this the test of the bitter waters, right? It was the jealousy ritual. So a husband thought the wife was cheating or something, and he would bring the wife before the priest. And what did the priest do? Then the priest is to write the curses. I thought it was the blessings too, but here it says the curses on a scroll and wash them off into the bitter water. He will require the woman to drink the bitter water that brings a curse, and it will enter her and cause bitter suffering. The priest is to take the grain offering of jealousy from the woman's hand and wave it before Yah and bring it to the altar. All right, and it keeps going, but if you remember, the idea is here, he writes the stuff down, he washes it into the water, which is really weird, and he's writing something on the water, and then or on a piece of paper, and then that gets washed into the water, and the woman drinks it, and if she's guilty, she has these problems. If she's not, nothing happens to her. Well, that's kind of, if we didn't know better, I would think that's kind of sounds like witchcraft. Like, what is he doing? Let's take a closer look. Wicca. This is core elements of Wicca. Sabbaths and moon observances. Purification rituals for people and places. Setting up altars. Casting a circle. Using fire, salt, stones. Invoking gods. Setting the intention. Stating the purpose. Reading liturgy, ancient texts, chanting, singing, dancing, praying. Food and drink. Thanksgiving. What does that sound like? Yah's people. So look at this one. Yah's people have Sabbaths and new moons. We have a purification called baptism. We set up altars, temples. How many did the patriarchs put up pillars of rock? Casting a circle, the dome tabernacle possibly, circles of prayer in Zechariah, invoking or calling on the name of Yah, making our request known, singing, dancing, praying, fellowship meals. We have grain offering, wine offerings, communion, giving thanks to Yah for his creation and what he's given us. So you can see that basically all they're doing is taking exactly what Yah gave us and twisting it and doing it for false gods. A couple more examples, and I think I'm going to move on because we have other stuff we want to get to. Sacrifices. We have sacrifices. Cannibalism. Well, we don't really have cannibalism, but we do have this thing that, they eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood. Obviously, we're not actually eating or drinking, but there's a correlation there. They're just twisting a principle again from the scripture, and they're taking it literal and doing something they were told not to do. Don't eat blood. Cursings and blessings. Yeah, we have that. Working with unseen forces and energy. Well, we have that. Wearing robes and head coverings. Well, kind of have that too. Telling the future. Well, they have their medians. We have our prophets. Ministering barefoot. Well, the priests had to do that in the temple. I think that was because of electromagnetic principles, but, smudging. Well, we have the incense. So that's kind of the same thing. Maybe the mark of the Tav. Reading and inciting spells. Well, we do prayers. We have that jealousy ritual we just talked about. Meditation. Well, we do meditation. Of course, that's focusing on Yah, reading his word and studying, stuff like that. They use salt and fire. We use salt and fire. And we can just keep going down the list of all the things that all they've done is taken what Yah created and perverted. But for some reason, if we talk about energy, no. That one you have to throw out because that one's definitely New Age and definitely not of God. And no. But everything is energy. So are we saying that Satan created everything? And this goes back to what we first started with. Know your scripture. Don't make hasty judgments. Remember that his ways are mysterious. Don't attribute to Satan what is the move of God. Pray for discernment. Examine the fruit. Right? Satan wants to be worshipped as Yah. So he will hijack everything. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't get those two. Yah uses and has established to give mankind the opportunity to accomplish what they want by circumventing the relationship between man and Yah. Similarly, we see between cult practices and or witchcraft the elements of biblical faith, which cannot be ignored. But we do understand that they are different still. They're not the same thing, even though they look the same. Which source is being drawn from? For what purpose? And who is being glorified? This is a big question. Are we relying on the power of Yah? Are we glorifying Yah? Or are we pulling from some other force or power? So now this gets into... Hey, we're doing pretty good on time. This gets into energy systems and science. Have they been proven? Well, the answer is actually yes. And there is actually some really old science now. It really goes way back. Dr. Reinhold Voll. This is the first German scientist. And you can see he was born in 1907 or 1909. And probably somewhere in between the 40s and 50s there, 1950s, 40s, he found out about the acupuncture system and wanted to see if he could measure it. And sure enough, what he used is something that we would call a ohm meter. Some people call it volmeter, but because they named it kind of after him. But what we would call it in electronics is an ohm meter or a multimeter. And he was measuring ohms, which is resistance. And he was checking how much resistance was at a point. So you would have, if you can see down here in this machine down here, there's a cylinder that you would hold in one hand. That's a I can't find my camera. There it is. That's a ground. So one hand would be ground, and that other little probe next to it, that would go onto an acupuncture point. And that was measuring the resistance between that energy pathway from ground to the output. And you can see most of the points end on the fingers or toes. Interesting, isn't that? So, and he found there was 100 times more resistance at acupuncture points than non-points, which now I'm ahead of myself. It says it right here. Yeah, 100 times more. Now that's very interesting to find that every time you go to an acupuncture point, you have 100 times more resistance. That means there's current in those locations. And it didn't end there. He teamed up with Jean-Claude, another French scientist, and they began injecting radioactive isotopes into acupuncture points. And, you know, radioactive isotopes allow you to look through the body. Most people are probably familiar with this if you go get a digestive scan and they make you drink the stuff that's like chalk. And that allows them to look through your body to see where in the digestive system are you having a problem? Where are things getting clogged up? It's radioactive, so it lets you see through the body. And what did they find? Well, they found out that when they injected radioactive isotopes into non-acupuncture points, what happened was this top chart. Nothing happened. You got a little bleep right where they injected it, and then it dissipated and went away. Nothing happened. But when they injected them into acupuncture points, you see how on the bottom chart it started to flow. And they actually mapped how the radioactive isotopes began to flow through the body. And they found out that the acupuncture meridians that the Chinese draw was probably about 90% accurate. He actually identified more points because of the testing. But that's pretty phenomenal that they were so correct on these points, and we actually have science to prove there's something moving there. So now you have a major problem if you're going to say this is all new age and nonsense. How do these points get there? Did Satan hack into the creation and put false systems into everybody's body to deceive them into energy work? I don't think so. Anatomical proof. Yes, there's anatomical proof. Now this gets a little bit more probably closely to the Aleph body, where, and unfortunately it's not the greatest picture, but I'm just seeing. No, they don't have any way for this to highlight. But right there in the center, where you can see these dermal papillae, these little loops, they're big and thick, and they extend out to the surface of the skin better than the others. So this line you see here is the outer layer of skin. Okay, so you have the dermis and the epidermis. The dermis is the deep skin, and the epidermis is the superficial skin. So this is what you're seeing is a picture of someone's skin. And right underneath the skin layer is these dermal papilla. And they have all these sympathetic nerve wrappings in them. So they're highly neurological. This is where we get all these reception and senses of touch and things. And what you find, and this is a bad picture because it's so zoomed into 100 times, right here at the center of this picture is a point. And what we find when you get to the center of an energy point on the body is you have more of these papilla wrappings closer together, and they stick out to the surface. And as you get further away, if you can kind of see at the top of the picture and the bottom, you see how they start getting smaller and shorter. That's how they get at non-points on the body. So this is another anatomical proof that this location of the body has a lot more energetic or nerve function than non-point areas of the body. So that's another, why would that be? All right. The test of the bitter waters. Remember we talked about that? How all energy medicine works in a nutshell if the person's doing it correctly. Because you can do it incorrectly. You have two types of interference waves: destructive, constructive. Destructive, almost everyone has heard of this. Uh, Noise cancellation technology, or you have heard of the opera singer who sings to the frequency of the glass and the glass shatters.
Mhm.
What she's actually doing is hitting the inverted frequency of the glass, because you can see in destructive interference, these two waves are inverted. So they have the same frequency, but they're upside down from each other. So when two waves that have the same frequency but are inverted hit each other, they cancel each other out. This is how we do noise cancellation. This is how you shatter a glass or you disintegrate something. And they built this into all kinds of architecture today, especially moving things like planes and cars and stuff, because if the top wave was the frequency of some metal that your car is built out of, and the bottom wave is the frequency your car is producing when it's moving, that would be a bad thing because your car would shake apart. So they built into our technology things to cancel out the noise of the car driving down the road or any type of technology, so that your device or your car or your vehicle, whatever, it doesn't vibrate itself apart. Okay. And this is stuff that happens, behind the scenes. Most of us don't know about it unless you're really into engineering of some type, or mechanical engineering, or I was more of the electrical engineer, so um, I'm more on that side of engineering. Now, constructive interference, two of the exact same waves hit each other. And what they do is they amplify and things become stronger. This is done at concerts a lot of times. Instead of cranking up volume to make the music sound louder, they reflect the music off of itself, and that makes it amplified, stronger, better. Okay. So with the body, one of the things I use a lot is these two practices. And if you have stuff in your body that you don't want there, that's not supposed to be there, heavy metals, toxins, nasty things that certain people keep making to try to put into our bodies, you use destructive interference to get that stuff out of the body, disintegrate it. And your tissues and organs that need to be stronger, you give the exact frequency of that tissue, and that makes the tissue stronger. Now think about the test of the bitter waters. I think this is how it works. If you had this inverted wave, which was not guilty, you were not committing adultery, and they said you were committing adultery, and they hit each other, nothing happens. But if the frequencies or the sin of adultery was in your body and they gave you the sin of adultery, guess what would happen? It would amplify, and all of a sudden the curse would come upon you. Right there. So was it some crazy new age thing? No, it was just energy. Yah knows exactly how it works. And guess what? We're doing this to ourselves all the time. Because the way the Aleph Top body system works is they are his letters on our body that he spoke. But depending on how those letters on our body are functioning, which depends on how we live, depends on how our body is going to function. So the blessing and curses are already written on our body. So we curse ourselves when we do not obey. And thus we violate his word, which is written on us, and we violate our own system. So he doesn't have to strike us down. He doesn't have to send a lightning bolt. He doesn't have to do all these other crazy things that the false gods are supposedly doing. It's built into the physics. Now, one other thing to understand how energy works in the body is understanding how communication works. You have in-phase coherence on the top here on the for me it's the chart on my right. Out of phase incoherence is on the bottom. And people probably have some idea with these words, coherence and incoherence. So if something is out of phase incoherent, that means there's no proper communication. The message isn't either being received correctly or being misunderstood, right? It's all jumbled. Whereas if a person's in phase coherence, definitely not the president, uh, you have proper communication and the message is received and understood. Prime example of this with the radio is when you're driving in your car. You're getting the top one. If you go underneath a bridge where all of a sudden the communication gets messed up, you get this because you're now out of phase and incoherent. Well, the body works the same way. I didn't get there yet. Do I have that in this? Let me just look real quick. You all don't look okay. No, I do not. Oh, I really wanted to show that, but okay. I will see what I can do. All right. Some energy therapies real quick as I try to find what I want to find. Oh, I know what to do. Biofeedback. So, well, let's just go back to the original thing here. So what happens is, unfortunately, people get involved in some new age practices and they get out of that. And then they get saved and they get into walking out the Bible and maybe get into keeping the instructions. And they start throwing all this stuff away because what they were taught about energy work is a lot of new age nonsense, really. Because the new age movement does one really good thing, and that is they just make up their own stuff. And it sounds great, you know, pie in the sky, unicorns and leprechauns floating around on clouds. And then when you ask them the serious questions like, what does that mean? Oh, it sounds good, but it means nothing. And most of what they're doing is pulling from the wrong sources. So people get freaked out and they go, I'm not going to have anything to do with energy work. Well, is that the proper answer? Are there really energy systems in the body? The answer is clearly yes. I mean, we can go all day with all the different systems that they do now use to measure energy in the body, even medically, EKGs, and I mean, so on and so forth. So we know energy exists in the body. We know everything is energy. So who created it? Well, we know who's the creator, and we know who the counterfeiter is. So we don't want to run away from everything energetic, because some of these things are really important, especially with the times we're entering. So biofeedback. Well, biofeedback works the same way the body does. There are feedback loops in the body. A feedback loop is a biological occurrence wherein the output of a system amplifies the system, positive feedback, or inhibits the system, negative feedback. And this allows the body to maintain homeostasis, balance. So think of anything, a lot of our reactions, reflexes. You step on a nail, you get feedback, and the feedback tells you, get off the nail. You touch something hot, feedback. Body temperature going up and down. There's all kinds of things, right? That's the screen, the video, the picture here is a little hard to see, but this is one that's talking about temperature increasing in the body and the process the body goes to correct the temperature. If we didn't have feedback loops in the body, we'd be dead. Because these have to be always maintaining balance in the body to make sure the body's making the proper adjustments for everything to be working in the body. So what does a biofeedback device do? It's doing the same thing. It's sending usually frequency-based information to the body and getting a response back from the body. So it's not a call, it's not new age, and it's the same thing as a lie detector test. On a lie detector test, you're asking true or false statements to the body. And if you lie, the body gives out one signal, which is a negative signal that goes throughout the body that makes you weak. And if you tell the truth, you have a positive signal that goes throughout the body that makes you strong. And what are they measuring on a polygraph test? Positives and negatives. You see? So it's the same thing. And that's what biofeedback does. You can send someone the energetic frequency of a substance, like a supplement, and then you get a response back from the body: yes, no, good, bad. Simple. It's just these devices now work extremely fast. This gets into an interesting one. Some little examples from my book, but maybe here first. See if I can hold this up. This chart is important to understand. Now, this is what I wanted to try to find. There you go. See this? So you have the, here we go. Levels of organization in the body. So in your textbooks, biology, anatomy, physiology, they're going to always start with number 2. Everything starts from a chemical reaction. And chemicals come together to form cells. Cells form tissues. Tissues form organs. And then the organ systems. And then all that working together forms you, the organism. However, it's incomplete, because the first level is really the informational level, which is energy and information. Okay, so what I mean by that is the active energy to perform functions in the body. If we were talking about a robot or a circuit, it would be the battery. But we're living, so it is the life source that comes through the breath of life. And that life source energy makes sure everything in the body is living. I mean, we're dust from the earth, and we have a soul and a spirit that lives in this flesh suit. How does that work? Well, that's because there's electromagnetic energy that keeps the glue that glues your spirit soul into the dust of the earth. And it comes through the breath of life. And the other part was information. Why? Because we're really elaborate systems, and you need the proper information for everything to know how to do what it's supposed to do. How does the chemistry know what to do? Because there's a software system. Informational. Why do you think these big, well, I can say what I want on here, satanic companies are making injections like Moderna that says our injection is a software delivery system? Because they figured out the same thing. Your body is a software system. And if you mess up the software, you mess up the chemistry. So all of this medical community and even natural health community that's stuck on chemistry testing, you're not looking at cause. You could still only be looking at the symptoms. The cause often is on the software level. Not always. It doesn't mean chemistry is invalid. It just means there's a whole nother level of the body that we're completely ignoring. So that's important. So the Aleph Tau body is the main system that controls the informational level of the body. It controls the shape of your body, the form of your body, the DNA. There's a spiritual DNA. There's a physical DNA. Everything they study in science is the physical DNA. There is a spiritual, energetic DNA that they have found that they call a finger or a shadow. They don't understand it, but it looks kind of just like the DNA, but it's only energetic. And I believe that's the energy of the Aleph Tau body points that are directly created and connected to Yah all the time. And that DNA is perfect. And depending on how we're living our life and how our ancestors before us have lived out their life, affects our Hebrew letters, which then allows that spiritual DNA to manifest into the physical. And when it manifests incorrectly, you get physical problems in your DNA.
Yeah.
They know this now, and they're going after these points. It's the first time in history I've ever seen them directly attack these points, and they're doing it. And they're doing it with the injections, and they're doing it other ways now. 5G. What's 5G? Most people, if you hear people, they're going to say 5G is going to work on terahertz. Terahertz is the light spectrum. These points are measured in terahertz. Now, a lot of times we just say 1 hertz, but if you really look at my detailed chart, it will say 1 hertz, 10 to the 12th power. Is it minus 12 or positive 12? I would have to think about that for a minute. There's a difference. I think it's positive 12, which is terahertz. So the 1, which is the aleph, is 1 terahertz. So why are they wanting to put these systems up that work on the terahertz frequencies all of a sudden? Because they know something too. And they want to mess us up any way they possibly can.
This is fascinating. I wish that we had another whole hour. This is just absolutely wonderful. And I am so excited about y'all's upcoming show, to where we're going to have a regular occurrence to where we can really dig in here. This is just absolutely fascinating.
Now let's run. This stuff was this other. Well, now it won't let me go back. Examples of things in the book between counterfeits and non-counterfeits. My research on threads, because we have those passages in the Bible about not mixing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has been taught wrong. This passage here, Deuteronomy 22, is giving an example. The passage in Leviticus is very specific to different kinds. And it was written first. Leviticus written first, Deuteronomy second. And it's giving an example like wool and linen. And in my research, I have this whole thing in the book of how fabrics affect the body, all these charts of measuring it. It's very, very interesting. We can't get into all that. And then I have a bunch of stuff about tattoos and cutting the skin because we are living stones. We're not living stones. We're not supposed to be cut upon. There's a reason. The energy systems explain this. The difference between the chakras and the color wheels, and there's 7 of them, and they're the colors of the rainbow, not this new age nonsense where they make up colors that don't exist, and sometimes they remove colors. And so all of that stuff is in the book, but we kind of really got to the end of what I really wanted to say. So, hey, that's really good timing.
Well, great. This has been so interesting. And Anita, you wanted to share with us a little bit too, didn't you? Oh, I can't hear you. Unmute yourself.
Sorry, I thought I tried. That's why. Yes. Well, you can always come back for part 2, but we're in the middle of relocating Remnant Remedy. And the first thing I want to say, and I think Al, please correct me here. What you said earlier in the program that I formulated these essential oils to go to these body points. I would say that I didn't formulate them. Yahweh did with his creation of his olive tav, and Dr. Monzo discovered how to match them. And so he gave me the frequencies and energy to go to those things that he created. And then I used my blending and oil skills to put them together. And so I just want to clarify that because it really isn't my formula. It's his formula, and then I tweak it. So, but one of the things we want to do is we want to start, we plan to start, hopefully it'll be after Passover for sure. And we will start, I will come back doing live shows called the Olive Tav Remedy. Because to me, Olive Tav is everything from the olive to the tav was an energy that was thought into creation. Everything created, seen and unseen, comes from that. It is Yeshua. It is the tree of life, etc. And so when we say the Olive Tav Remedy, we can apply it to anything and everything because it's through that and our Creator. And so the show, I believe, is at noon on Thursdays when we start. And right now, archive shows are playing there at Messianic Glam Radio. And so we will have Dr. Manzo back, and we will be doing some things with him. And then I will take his book and this, and we will be going through the Olive Tav body points. And I will be focusing on the essential oil part and or how to enhance with the laser, etc., for the application of essential oils and some scriptural applications. And we will also go through a basic Olive Tav letter Hebrew learning. So that is what we plan to do. And I will let you wrap that up. Thank you.
Dr. Monzo, you want to wrap that up?
Sorry, I got my
no problem.
Yeah, it's basically what she said. So yeah, all I did is I tested oils to match the harmonic frequency of each point. So we just kept adding oils until we find the right combination, and then I gave them to Nitsa to figure out, can you mix these together or not, because I didn't know the chemical side of it. And they actually do, so they're working really great.
Yeah.
And you can find the book on our website. It's thick. It's, I don't know, 400 and some pages. It's like 11 years of research here, 12 years or something like that. So it's a lot.
Yeah, it's really so interesting. You know, I certainly don't have the knowledge base that you guys have, but you know, speaking just from, you know, a normal person who would pick it up, it's well written. It's easy to understand if you just kind of follow it along methodically. And that's what I'm doing. You can see I've got mine here, and I just keep myself a little marker. Okay, I've understood up to this point, and then I'm just going to keep working on it because it's fascinating. Absolutely.
And we made it a spiral bound because this is not a book you memorize. Yeah, it's going to be a reference book. So when you need to do reference, you're going to want to sit it flat and open it up a lot. And a lot of the other bindings are just not going to allow for that. So
we do have a question on the chat. Penny is asking you, Dr. Monzo, where can she get a pair of glasses like that?
Oh, these are the Hedron. So Hedron. They make EMF protectors, which I'm not really crazy about their EMF protectors, but these are the blue light blocking glasses. So whenever I'm working with computer screens or these overhead lights, I like to wear these a lot because the blue light is an issue, especially more into the evening. So you don't disturb your sleep. You want the blue, block out the blue light.
Yeah, and I just want to say, you can order that book from Dr. Monzo. You can order the laser from him. We have the home kit and the books also, and we have the oils. So I would suggest to the people out there that they contact Dr. Monzo or me. And if you're already ordering from us, you actually save a lot more money on the shipping. But if you're not, you know, you can definitely go to his site. But I suggest to all of you who are interested in this, and we have a lot of practitioners that are coming into this who have, you know, started walking into Torah and purity, who walked away from what they learned and are trying to re-grasp this from a biblical perspective. And so I just recommend that you get the book now. It's simple, but it's deep.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
So you would want to start reading the preface of the first few chapters before we actually get into the body points and the program. You're going to want this as a reference. It is going to take a little bit of time, especially if you don't know the basics of ancient Hebrew, to wrap your mind around that. And, you know, some people out there are really good with numbers. Some are really good with words. I think Monzo's the number guy for sure. Not that he's not words, but I work with words.
This has been a fascinating program. I want to say thank you to both of us, to both of you for coming on today.
Thank you.
And I hope to have you on again sometime. It was wonderful. All right. Well, we have to say goodbye for now. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you. Shalom.
Shalom.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.